Let's talk about a disease that has haunted humanity for, well, centuries. I mean, this is a virus so terrifying, it's literally the stuff of nightmares. But it's also the story of one of medicine's most incredible victories. Today, we're digging into rabies.
I want to start with a number because it really sets the stakes. 100%. Once the clinical signs of rabies show up, once a person actually has symptoms, the disease is 100% fatal. No exceptions. There's no cure, no effective treatment. It's a guaranteed death sentence.
But, and this is the incredible paradox, here's another 100%. With timely treatment after you've been exposed, rabies is also completely preventable. It's this wild contrast, being both absolutely deadly and absolutely preventable that makes this whole topic so critical to understand.
Okay, so let's start with the problem itself. To really get a handle on the solution, we first need to understand the virus, what it is, and just how big of a threat it is on a global scale.
So rabies is what's known as a zoonosis, which is just a fancy way of saying it's a disease that jumps from animals to people. The culprit is a rhabdovirus, and it gets passed along mainly through the saliva of an infected animal, almost always from a bite. And while you might think of raccoons or bats, the vast majority of human cases worldwide actually come from dogs.
And get this, the global impact is just staggering. Around the world, one person dies from rabies every 10 minutes. Think about that. It's this relentless, daily tragedy, and it's happening mostly in communities where getting that life-saving care is really, really difficult.
So how does this virus actually work? What's its game plan? It's not some quick, overwhelming attack. No, it's more like a slow, stealthy invasion of your body's most critical system, your nervous system.
The best way to think about it is like a hijacker on a one-way highway. After it gets into your body from a bite, it doesn't just flood your bloodstream. It actually latches onto your peripheral nerves and starts this slow, methodical journey up those nerve pathways, heading straight for the central nervous system. Its final destination? The brain.
And here's the thing. This whole journey, it's not fast. The incubation period, that's the time between the bite and when you first feel sick, is on average about 40 days. This long, silent period, this is the ticking clock. It feels like nothing is wrong, but this is the critical, and I mean critical, window we have to intervene and save a life.
So, what happens when that clock finally runs out? What happens when the virus finishes its long trip and finally reaches the brain? Well, that's when we hit the point of no return.
The first phase of symptoms is frustratingly vague. You might get a fever, feel tired, maybe a headache, feel anxious, but there's often one big clue. A strange, tingling, burning, or numb feeling right at the site of the original bite, even if it healed up weeks ago. That's the virus basically announcing its arrival in the central nervous system.
From there, the disease usually splits into one of two forms. About 70% of cases are what we call furious rabies. That's the classic picture with hyperactivity and agitation. The other 30% are paralytic rabies, where muscles just slowly become paralyzed, starting near the bite and spreading. Both of them are equally fatal.
In that furious form, that's where you get the most infamous, most terrifying symptom of all, hydrophobia, the fear of water. But it's not a psychological fear. Patients are actually incredibly thirsty. It's just that the virus causes these severe, painful spasms in their throat, so the very act of trying to drink, or even just seeing water, triggers this agony that chokes them. It's one of the most horrific symptoms in all of medicine.
Once these neurological symptoms start, the end comes fast, and it's completely irreversible. The virus causes massive inflammation in the brain and spinal cord, and death is inevitable, usually within a week. There is simply nothing modern medicine can do at this point.
All right, I know, that was incredibly dark. But remember that other 100%? The one about prevention? Let's flip the script and talk about that now. Let's talk about how we win this race against the clock.
See, here's the whole secret. That long, quiet incubation period, it's not a safety net. It's our miracle window of opportunity. It gives us just enough time to arm the body with everything it needs to find and destroy the virus before it can ever get to the brain.
So what do you actually do if you think you've been exposed? The steps are super simple, but they're lifesavers. First, and this is the most critical part, immediately wash the wound with soap and water for at least 15 minutes. Seriously, just doing this can drastically reduce your risk. Then, put on an antiseptic and, without waiting around, get to a hospital or an anti-rabies clinic right away.
So this medical intervention is called post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP. And you can think of it like a 1-2 punch. First, you get a series of rabies vaccine shots that teach your own immune system how to fight the virus. And then, for more severe bites, you also get something called rabies immunoglobulin. This is a direct injection of pre-made antibodies right at the wound site, giving you an immediate shield while your body's own defenses are being built up by the vaccine.
This treatment works. It's incredibly effective when it's given on time. But, the real win is preventing people from getting bitten in the first place. So let's zoom out for the big picture takeaway here. So what's the key to getting rid of rabies in people? It's simple. You have to control it in the animals. That means widespread vaccination of pets, especially dogs. It means avoiding contact with strays or wild animals. It means supporting good, humane animal control programs. And it means vaccinating people who are at high risk, like vets and animal control officers.
And we know this strategy works. I mean, just look at this data from Algeria. Every year, about 120,000 people there get treatment after a potential exposure. And out of all those thousands of bites, the country only averages about 20 deaths per year. That massive gap between those two numbers, that's the story. Each one of those treatments is a life saved from what would have been certain death. That's the power of prevention.
So that brings us right back to where we started, to that big paradox. We have a disease that is 100% fatal, but it's also 100% preventable with tools we've had for decades. The science is solved, the challenge isn't a medical one anymore, it's a problem of access, of awareness, and of action, which leaves us all with a final, really pressing question. Are we doing enough?